only to do one Mass and to go down to Canal Park where the Rubberducks play minor league baseball.
Quack, quack.
And we also decided, because yesterday was the Nativity of St. John the Baptist, which is a very important feast for the Puerto Rican community in particular, that the Mass ought to be bilingual. So we advertised. We had billboards out down in Akron, digital billboards. We were out on social media. Yep. Bishop Malesic came down, celebrated the Mass. Father Rafael Capo, who is a priest of the Archdiocese of Miami, flew in. He preached the Mass, and not only was there a Mass, but then since it is Eucharistic Revival, we had a Eucharistic procession up the hill and into St. Bernard Church, where Father Chris Aruca, pastor, warmly welcomed us, and we had a little exalt there, Eucharistic praise and adoration and benediction, and the church was absolutely packed.
That's the first time I was in St. Bernard's, too.
What do you think?
I loved that place. Yeah, it was really nice. I'm
gorgeous.
not, I think you know this, but I'm not one for big, huge churches. I don't like ugly. Let's just be clear here. I don't like ugly, but I like small and intimate over large and grand. Let's put it that way. But that one I really like.
One of the reasons St. Bernard's is so beautiful and different is because although it is big, because there are no pillars obstructing any views, it makes you feel connected and warm. Yeah. It's similar to St. Wendelin in that regard. Right. Now, Wendelin is small, but it's wide, and there are no pillars obstructing any views, as you would find in a Gothic church, like St. Stan's or St. Michael's or St. James, James is more Romanesque, I suppose. Yes, but Bernard's is different. In fact, there was a time, if you do your history of the Diocese of Cleveland, that some thought Akron would become its own diocese.
Right.
And Bernard was built to be the cathedral if Akron ever became its own diocese. So it has not and will not, but it has one of the most beautiful churches in the whole city. And it was recently restored both inside and outside, the roof, tuck pointing, the lighting, and it's clean and it's beautiful. And I had a bunch of the kids from Tole Lege that came in there, and jaws dropped, you know.
Yeah, I walked in there before. Actually, I parked there and then walked down to the ballpark from there. And so I walked in for the first time. I was like, oh, this is what FD meant about this place. This is really nice. And when you said the lighting, that really stayed with me, too, because I was like, wow, because a lot of times and maybe the pillars are a function of this, right, is that they tend to be a little too dark for me. Like, it just makes me feel uncomfortable sometimes when it's really, really dark. Not in the candlelit way.
Right.
I mean, just like in the regular, ordinary
I want to
kind
be able
of Mass.
To see,
yeah, it's it feels dreary to me, I guess, sometimes. And St. Bernard's doesn't feel that way. It didn't feel that way in the day or the night to me. It felt like it was really well lit, and I really, we could see everything. I had to read the Gospel at Adoration, and I could see very clearly, and everything else. It was nice. It was a nice night.
And it was packed, and everyone who was there wanted to be there, and they were singing so loudly when we came in and did the Salutaris. And this is the other thing, too. We just had a meeting, and Nancy Fishburne, who's the Executive Director of Communications for the Diocese, was asking me for a quote, and I said, I haven't figured out exactly how to say this yet, and I want it to sound right, but sometimes when we when we have a bilingual Mass or a trilingual or a multilingual Mass, it can feel forced.
Sure.
Last night did not feel that way at all. And I credit that to Andy, the musician, who led the songs. And each song, he did it in English and Spanish, and the verses were the same, but it felt very organic and natural. Father Capo's homily, he didn't say one thing and then the exact same thing, like one thing in English and the exact same thing in Spanish. He held the form and he was telling a story and he was preaching, but he naturally went back and forth between English and Spanish. So it didn't feel like one was a token language or we were forcing one. Everything felt so natural. And even if you didn't know a lot of Spanish, it was easy enough to sing. And I imagine if you didn't know a lot of English, it was also easy enough to sing. And I think everyone felt like they were at home. This was their place. And everybody felt connected. Even some of the teens after were saying, "I really liked the two languages. That was cool." So I thought that was excellent. So credit to Lynette Sines for helping organize that, and Hortensia, who was on the show last week, and all the hard work, and our whole Eucharistic Revival team. It was wonderful.
Yeah.